Welcome to Recycled Oregon. Stay up to date with the current scrap trends and explore the daily life of managing a continuous stream of recycled metals. Delivered to you by B&K Auto Salvage and Recycling, here's today's host, Bo Boston.
All right, well, welcome back to another episode of the Scrap Confidential, a recycled media program. Got Jake Hanson with me again today here at B&K Auto Salvage in LeGrand, Oregon. Today we're going to go over the markets, and we're going to talk a bit about the auto salvage and what it provides this time of year, and what the trends are with the winter months and what Jake has seen over the last 20 years in this industry. So, Jake, good to see you again today.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure. We see each other probably way too much, but
yeah, no such thing.
That's part of it. So, weather outside.
Horrible.
We've had snow.
Go from a foot of snow to the snow is gone, and that foot of snow turned into 6 inches of water. Just typical Eastern Oregon winters.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know.
We got a little more snow over in the Baker City area, and then me living in Idaho, I've still got 6 inches at the house. So it's definitely showed up. It just showed up a little later than expected.
Yeah, I still probably got 4 inches at my house. The backyard's still completely covered. Snow piles from plowing last week and this week, and and then that cold stretch that we had last week was kind of interesting.
It's nasty.
18 below out here.
Plus the wind chill is what really kills the batteries, hard on equipment.
It is. It makes it tough for all equipment to start and run on the daily.
And that includes the guys.
Yeah,
because a lot of our equipment is just a guy with a hand tool out there.
Yeah, exactly. Fortunately, in today's world, we're not using nearly as many pneumatic products. Our air guns used to freeze up all the time. That was always, in years past, that was always one of the big things, is we'd have airlines frozen. You could do everything to try to remedy that and be prepared for it, but it just snuck right up on you.
Well, and the old batteries probably didn't hold up near as well as the new ones do either.
Oh, man.
As far as our cordless is concerned.
Well, yeah, some of our first cordless power tools that we used out here, I think we had bought a Snap-on half-inch drive air gun, which when we bought it was the best thing on the market. I mean, the guys would fight over that thing. Who got to use it? It made their job so much quicker. To now every make and model,
it's pretty good anymore.
They've got it all. Yeah, and our cordless power tools definitely override any pneumatic air tool that we've got.
Yeah.
And in use today, from the guys, the individual parts pullers out in the yard, right down to the teardown pad. The guys are just using cordless. It makes the job so much quicker.
Yeah.
So much faster. The ease of being able to put a 1/4-inch drive cordless ratchet onto something where before you would be using an opened or a boxed end wrench, and then of course you had the gear wrench type of ratcheting wrench, which made a world of difference in that. There's just a lot of things that we use every day, that the average everyday consumer uses every day at their home, and it's good quality, and the guys make it last, and it makes their job easier.
Absolutely. Well, we're inside the warehouse for anybody watching the video. We're in one of our motor transmission warehouses, and every auto salvage is different. As you go across the U.S., you'll see lots of different setups. Some people, they pull all their stuff as far as usable parts as soon as the car comes in, totally dismantle, and just leave a shell out there for scrap. And then in our case, we store a lot of the parts in the car and then pull them as needed in a lot of cases. So we have a little bit of warehouse space that we have this product in that we're sitting in here today, but you kind of want to explain the value of leaving the parts in the car compared to having the warehouse here, and does the weather have an effect on that, negatively or positively? I mean, what have you seen?
Well, we do dismantle a lot of vehicles. We don't have the warehouse space to basically pre-dismantle all of our vehicles that come in. So when our vehicles come in, we run tests on them: motors, transmissions, electrical components. Our technicians, they spend time testing all of these components out. Then we upload it into the computer, and then we'll drain the vehicle. We'll put the vehicle in the yard, and then it's ready to dismantle. Say if we sell a major component, motor, transmission, we usually play from behind most of the time.
Sure.
We don't necessarily have the manpower to pre-dismantle, but what we are doing on the daily basis is my dismantlers are pulling sold orders. So whether that be a motor, a transmission, differentials, complete interior, underhood harness. So then at that point, if we sell an underhood harness, motor comes out of it, goes on the shelf, and is ready for resale at that point. So
now, do you feel that by leaving the motor in the vehicle, having the hood still on that, keeping that covered, having the windows in the vehicle or the doors on it, I mean, is your interior in better shape than a lot of other yards that maybe strip their cars whole and try to put those prize parts, in storage? Or I mean,
the people that have the ability to get it inside a covered, enclosed warehouse, that stuff is going to definitely be in a little bit better shape. Most of the stuff, when we sell seats, or we have customers that want seats, we'll take them out to the yard, show them to them, and say, hey, these things could use a good cleaning. We discount the price. If it needs a good cleaning,
sure,
we'll discount it accordingly. One of the biggest things is seats, interior, stuff like that. We don't necessarily bank on the differentials, sheet metal, body shops, wanting good late model sheet metal. We try to accommodate as best as we can with that. At of course a substantially reduced rate than new.
Sure.
Most of this stuff is greater than 50% less than new.
Now with winter in play, and there's lots of snow plows running around, and a lot of mag chloride we're seeing, and salt that's used in the state of Oregon now, a bit more than it used to be 10 years ago. Are you seeing the quality of the panels of our salvage inventory? Are you seeing that fall or decline due to that? Or?
Well, fortunately, the salt hasn't been in use a long time in the state of Oregon, but I do see that becoming a problem.
Yeah.
We see a lot of vehicles, the underneath side of them, when they're trying to pull cross members out to get transmissions, bolts and hardware are way tougher to get out now than what they used to be, just because of the layer of film on them.
Well, I guess we had to pull a driveline yesterday, and
we were slid underneath of a little Ford Ranger because we had it on the back of the tow truck.
Yep.
But yeah, those tougher to get out.
Okay.
It makes the auto salvage industry. It just adds that extra layer of, I guess you would call it, toughness to it.
Sure.
I mean, getting the components out without damaging something. Without stripping out bolts. Without having to use a cutting torch or a Sawzall to remove components because they were so rusted. Fortunately, we aren't there yet, but it is coming.
Okay.
The longer that these vehicles have been on the road in the salt and the mag chloride, unfortunately, they will see their demise a lot quicker.
That's going to come up.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and I have noticed a lot more rusty vehicles in today's world. I bid on a truck just the other day, and it was a 2012 or 13 model vehicle, and the pickup bed all the way around the wheel wells was completely rusted out. Junk, You know, you don't have a good sellable bottom end of the cab. Yeah, you know, the doors could potentially. I didn't get that close because everything was all locked up, but you know, things are just rusting. It's not good.
It would be safe to say we've been blessed, and we probably didn't know how blessed we were living in the area that we live in. Our region, whether that be western Idaho, northern Nevada, even eastern Washington and eastern Oregon, it's pretty dry climate.
Yeah.
We, you know, fairly mild seasons in all reality. We do get some winter. But for the most part, you know, things can dry out. And so when it comes to body panels, you look back east or in the Midwest, and those guys, you know, they've got a 3-year-old vehicle that's halfway rusted, and we're still driving 1960s out here with the original paint on them.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we've definitely been fortunate in that respect. I mean, you know, you go out and look at some of our earlier cars and trucks, you know, stuff that are in the 70s. We don't get a lot of it anymore.
Sure.
But the little bit that we do, we hold on to as long as we can, just because, you know, there's still a market for that salvage. People are looking for doors and fenders and, you know, stuff like that. Axles, differentials, trannies, transfer cases. You know, one of the biggest things on some of those earlier components was a battery would rust them out, right?
Sure.
You know, if you had a battery, an alternator that was overcharging and it was spewing out of the battery, so then therefore the battery box was junk.
Yep.
And then the fender and the core support that it was hooked to, it's junk also.
Yep.
And that's been going on since the 80s. I mean, I've been here since 1994. I've seen a lot of things change in the salvage industry. You know, I remember when the 50s and 60s stuff, people would call us and ask us about it. And I'm just like, hey, we don't have much of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And now here we are in 2025, and we have people calling asking us for 70s and 80s fenders and hoods and doors, and you know, we tell them, hey, we don't have it. We can try to source it for you.
Sure.
Some things we're hit and miss. We will come up with some of the components.
But they go fast.
They do. They go fast. You know, there's a pretty good assortment of people out there, do-it-yourselfers, that are looking to put a different fender on their 79 F-150. You know, that they got that was their dad's.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm working on I have a little 65 C10.
Yeah, the little 2-wheel drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That my son and I have had in the shop. You know, we took it all the way down to bare frame. The frame was absolutely perfect. I mean, other than a minor surface rust on it, all the bolts came out of it just fine, control arms off of it. Everything was good until you got to the inside of the cab and the floorboards were rusted out.
Sure.
But you know, they make components for all of those trucks.
Now, looking at that, is a guy better to just get online and find that aftermarket part, or is there something to be said for trying to find that factory floor?
You know, trying to find a factory floor for one of those is going to be pretty tough. I mean, you will occasionally find that barn find, you know, something, but
you're going to pay for it probably too.
Yeah, and you're not going to cut the floor out of it. You're going to rebuild the truck, or you're going to sell the truck like it is.
Sure.
You know? But with all of the aftermarket companies that specialize in classic car and truck parts, man, you can just get on there and buy that stuff direct from them. But when you're ready to put the LS motor in your old classic, then that's when you call us.
Yeah, yeah.
We can fix you up with a good late model LS package, you know, a complete assembly, harness, everything on it. You know, the salvage industry has changed in that respect. With, you know, we're selling later model body parts just because we can't get the early components. You know, and all these nice newer vehicles got good seats and stuff like that you can retrofit into your classic vehicle.
Sure.
Or even go as far as we've sold complete rolling chassis.
Put the cab on it kind of deal.
People put their early cab on it. So,
now with that, kind of
sure.
In comparison to a used 20-year-old OEM factory part, what are you seeing better longevity out of? Because
Well,
we
really-
do sell aftermarket, and
Yeah.
we do sell the factory OEM options, whether it be a door handle or an electric switch, or towing mirrors tend to be probably one of the, or just general mirrors, and
Sure.
you know, they seem to be one of the biggest parts I see sold. What's the quality difference there? Even comparing a 20-year-old part to that brand new.
It really depends on where it comes from.
Okay.
So we've got certain suppliers that we use that because we have faith in the quality of the component.
Sure.
Now you can get on the internet and you can order a set of headlights for your 95 Chevy pickup that have an LED conversion, and you can get them for $50 for the set. I don't know if that's the right price, but
Yeah.
you can get those, and then you can change those out again in less than a year. An OEM headlight definitely is not an LED headlight in a 95 GM truck,
This is true.
but you can buy an LED bulb and put in it.
Sure. That housing and everything's going to stay together most likely.
They're a good quality component. Doesn't mean that the lens isn't necessarily yellowed
Yeah, I was gonna say
or
fogged
faded.
over. Yep.
The stuff that they're putting on the road these days plays
that
a
stuff,
plays a
doesn't
big
it?
role on it. Yeah, it definitely yellows the lenses. It clouds stuff up. You can polish on them. We do sell an aftermarket line of headlights. For a vehicle like that.
Sure.
They're an OEM replacement, so they are not an LED upgrade.
Still got a halogen bulb in them.
They'll come with a halogen bulb in it.
Sure.
They adjust like they're supposed to. You're going to pay a little bit more money for it.
Okay.
I'm not saying don't go buy those LED headlights, because it's not that I haven't done it myself. I know, because I've had to replace the same ones that I've done, So
Sure.
it's just one of those things. I mean, if you want something cheap and quick, then buy it.
Yeah.
If you want something that's going to last, if it's a vehicle that you're going to daily drive and you need this to last, there is other options.
Sure.
I'm not saying that the auto salvage industry is the other option, or the only option.
But it's a good
I'm
one.
just saying it's a good option. We've been around a long time, not just us.
Yeah, there's a lot of auto
There's
salvage yards out there.
2,500 plus yards that we're linked with, but of course we have a smaller database of our normal yards, our runs that we do, if not every day, sometimes most of the time twice a week.
Sure.
We're meeting up with North Verde Auto Salvage, which are very, very good business partners. All Parts Brokers in Caldwell. We've got a group of yards that we deal with, and I feel like we take care of each other. If we have a warranty component, say we sell one of these motors sitting up here behind us, and we put a standard 90-day warranty on it, and that motor goes bad at 95 days, and the parts salesman at North Verde call us and say, hey, I got a good shop, we sold them this motor. 95 days it's been in the vehicle and it went bad. What can we do? Let's help them out.
Yeah.
Let's make it right. We want to make sure that our components last for people. Now, we're not going to say they're going to last a lifetime,
Absolutely not.
but we're going to stand behind the products that we sell. Within reason, we're going to try to take care of you as best as we possibly can.
And that's probably something you're not going to get from the internet.
That's not you're
most,
not.
most of the time.
One of my good friend's favorite sayings is that Amazon doesn't sponsor baseball teams. Amazon doesn't sponsor soccer teams
Sure.
in your local town, right? I'm not saying they don't do it in the grand spectrum of
Yeah.
things, but the idea of buying local, it doesn't have to be all the time, but
Sure.
don't rule it out.
Absolutely.
We've got a lot of employees. We are feeding a lot. Our businesses are feeding a lot of mouths.
Yeah.
We go buy groceries at a local grocery store.
Yep.
It's not that we don't buy stuff off of Amazon, because we do. Everybody does. It's convenient when you live in rural America like what we do.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier. It makes you kind of feel like you're living in a bigger area,
Oh,
because
sure.
you can have it the next day.
Yeah.
So, there's just plenty of options.
Sure.
And don't just what I'm saying is don't rule out with one look and be done.
Know what
you're
you're getting at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Really know what you're getting.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you can't necessarily buy on the internet and be reliant upon the quality.
Now, to any of the other auto salvage people that are out there, maybe listening to this podcast, or somebody that's interested in the industry, what are parts that you see move in the winter months that do better than maybe what we'd see in the summer months or the spring? Is there a trend you'll notice on that?
I used to be able to tell you what that trend was, because during the winter months, the start of the winter months, of course, was always hunting season,
Okay.
right? So you'd kick that off in hunting season with batteries, differential parts,
Okay.
axle shafts, rear ends, front carrier assemblies, control arms, steering knuckles, suspension components.
Okay.
You'd get the slide offs into the ditch. You'd have somebody stuck and break a front drive axle. You'd spit a drive shaft out of it because you were stuck in a ditch. You'd slid into a ditch and bent your lower control arm, or broke a steering knuckle from sliding in the snow and the ice and hitting the curb.
Yeah.
Breaking a wheel. We always get, all times a year, we get a lot of requests for used tires. Tires are just expensive. It doesn't matter which way you look at it.
Yeah.
Everything in life is expensive, not just tires, right?
Yeah.
It's from the gas that you put in the vehicle to go.
If it's oil based, it normally comes at a cost.
It's exactly. So to answer that question, season wise, a lot of differential components, transmissions, transfer cases.
Okay.
In today's world, with all of the electronic shift transfer cases, there's vehicles that have some electrical component problems, from transfer case shift motors to the module that's underneath of the hood or underneath of the dash that controls those components. We do sell a lot of those. And then body parts, doors, fenders, hoods, front bumpers, rear bumpers, people getting slid into at a stop sign, or the young driver was out flipping cookies in the parking lot and slid up against the curb.
Yep.
And not even a young driver, because old drivers have done that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just one of those things that we know that we're going to sell a fair amount of wheels, whether it be for snow tire changeover. That's a cost savings to people when they can buy a set of used wheels from us that we guarantee to be true.
Put those tires on those wheels, and they've got their own set.
And then they can swap them out in their own garage if they need be. They don't have to sit at a tire store to wait for the changeover.
Sure. Sure.
And not a lot of people have that available to them. They can't pull it into their garage and jack it up and change it. So, but if they rolled into a tire outfit or a repair shop with their wheels and tires in the trunk of their car, that company bolts those babies on for them, puts the other ones back in the trunk, and they drive away.
Yeah.
So, there's stuff like that we try to prepare for in the later part of the summer months. Having sets of wheels ready to go. All year long we gather up snow tires and put them up for sale used. It's not uncommon to buy a good set of passenger car studded snow tires from us for $150 for a good set that you could potentially get 2 to 3, maybe 4 winters out of.
Sure.
And the same thing with an all-season tire. Those are just things that we try to prepare for every year. Doesn't necessarily mean that it always happens, because we get busy with other things that we're doing. We're just constantly working to try to make this place better every day. And then, to add to it, we've So
for those of you following, we've got a facility in Baker City and as well in Pendleton, Oregon. And they act like feeder yards in a lot of cases as far as buying used auto salvage cars. Anything of quality we send over here to the little Grand Yard to get broke down. And then anything that just is valued at crush, we just process them and crush. But moving forward, I know as far as the scrap side and buying on my end, because that's a lot of what I do, I noticed we buy a lot of cars in February, March, and April, and I think a lot of that has to do over the years kind of figuring out it's insurance. A lot of people wreck November, December, January while the weather's pretty poor. And by the time everything gets processed and it's all handled, the opportunity to buy those cars via insurance sale or even directly from the individual, sometimes that seems to just be a few months down the road. So I see a pretty good influx in quality parts available as far as fresh inventory later in it'd be called late winter, early spring.
Yep.
So sometimes you don't have a part right away. Sometimes spring's the best time to check in because there's a lot of fresh kill off the road.
Yeah, absolutely. And if it, some of those parts, if it's something that you don't need right away, I mean, we like to be able to take people's names and phone numbers and call them and say, hey, I know you were in a couple months ago, you were looking for this particular part, we didn't have it at the time, couldn't necessarily find exactly what you were looking for at any of our fellow yards. Well, we got one in. If you're still interested, you can come out and check it out. We've got the vehicle in stock. We do that a lot. We do that a lot. We'll have customers call us looking for a transmission for their secondary vehicle. A vehicle that they just run back and forth to the landfill with, or they go cut wood with. And we'll call them and say, hey, we got this transmission in that you've been looking for. This is the price on it. If you're interested in it, let us know. We'll get it pulled for you.
Yeah.
Get it tested first, of course.
And there's a lot, one thing I didn't really recognize until I was in the industry and, learned from you on this was a car that gets rear-ended and is in an accident sometimes is the best car for us to sell a motor out of or a transmission out of, because structurally the opportunity for that motor or transmission to get damaged is so much less when the car's been rear-ended rather than when it takes a nose or goes head-on with something. I feel like we get a better quality of motor, a better quality of transmission, or a better opportunity for that to be in good shape due to that.
Sure, or a light rolled over vehicle. Something this time of year when the roads are horrible and they've got to slide off of the interstate, right?
Yep.
Or one of the county roads, you slide off, a light rollover. Those are good components cars. They may not be a body parts vehicle.
Yeah.
But they've got good hard parts.
Perfect.
Motors, transmissions, stuff like that. So.
Well, what's your thoughts on the scrap market right now? We seen a little bit of an up this month, February. It took a little while for him to come around to give it to us, but up.
I think that the reason that it's up, and I mean I've heard it from a lot of different sources, is there's just no scrap out there to be had.
We don't have a whole lot.
No. You look around at some bare dirt in our facilities, right? And people are just not wanting to go dig it out of the snowbank to bring it in. It's just not worth it.
No, and the freeway, closed twice in the last 2 weeks. I mean, not for very long. It's not like they've been big shutdowns, but we really haven't seen a whole lot of reason for the flow to slow down as far as being able to move it to the mill or to the shredder. It's really just been because the product's not here to be processed.
I definitely think, and for sure in the Northwest.
Yeah.
Where winter definitely plays a big factor on the ability to get material into the end result.
Yeah.
From the feeder yards that are feeding the shredders to the feeder yards that are feeding the steel mills.
Sure.
It's a little bit tougher for people to get that material in the door, get it loaded up and get it brought in. Number one, they don't want to contend with the weather. We seem to fight that a couple times a year, right? You've got your winter months, and then in your summer months when it's so dang hot, nobody wants to do that.
Yep.
If they're doing it in the evening and bringing loads in the morning, which we've got a lot of customers like that.
First thing in the morning while it's nice and cool, get it in, get it out.
Yeah, and it's just, the winter months are hard on equipment, the hot summer months are hard on equipment.
Yeah.
And that goes right down to the tires that are on the vehicle that you're moving the product with.
Sure. Yep.
So I don't know. I'm looking forward to some up numbers.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it'll entice more people to do a little bit more cleaning. I'm optimistic.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in the same boat. I think I share the same sentiment that I think the market's going to come up. I think it should come up. I think there's enough demand for it, and lack of product should create that supply-demand scenario. Stay tuned with us as we continue this. I'll have Jake on a handful more times throughout the year. I'm going to bring in some fresh faces, whether it be other auto salvage facilities and or some of our manufacturers that produce scrap product for us, as we dive deeper into the scrap world and what's going on out here in the Pacific Northwest. Thanks for following us here on Recycled Oregon and the Scrap Confidential. Check us out on Facebook. You can reach out to B&K Auto Salvage at 541-963-6744, or look us up online. We're available all the time. So thanks again, guys. Thanks, Jake.
All right, thank you.
It's always a pleasure.
Yep.
We'll see you guys later.